So you can't use the Bible to prove the existence of the Bible, or to prove the Bible, or the existence of Jesus. That was the title of a video that I thought had uploaded, but only 90% of it uploaded, and then it got stuck in that phase. Circular argument, and then dash using the Bible to prove Jesus existed, I think was the thing. That this is a claim. It's a claim that's a circular argument. Because of the video that I made, you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible or the existence of Jesus. That was the title. And Mike Pills typed circular argument. I replied, "How so? Did you even watch the video?" And he replied, "Do you know what a circular argument is? Here's an example. The Bible is true. How do you know? The Bible is true. The Bible says so." My reply was, "Too bad the video I made last night didn't upload, but I am re-uploading it now. The Bible is not a book. It does not have one author, nor do various canons contain the same books. But okay, we can use archaeology." And I put "and the paleography" instead of polygraphy, as well as carbon-14 dating, not to mention extra-biblical sources hostile to early Christians. Yet with all that evidence/information, it still doesn't mean that one can't use books written by different people for various reasons to testify to the existence of a man named Jesus Bar Joseph as evidence for said man's existence, just because some bishops decided to add them to a codex 300 years later. And that's basically it. Again, the fundamentalists, which I put into categories as atheists/anti-theists, and fundamentalists that are evangelical proselytizing Christians. I've even met evangelical proselytizing atheists. They just want one God less. They still like to, hand out stuff in parking lots and spread lies, because evangelicalism or fundamentalism is a lie. So I'll go through again. This has the most books. It's the Orthodox Study Bible. It has 3rd Maccabees in it, and is the only English translation I know of this canon. This is the best translation of this canon into English, and it's the Catholic one. It's called the New American Bible, not to be confused with the best translation that the Protestants had come out with, which is New American Standard Bible, the NASB, which is almost word-for-word translation. And then I have the Peshitta, but it's translated from the Aramaic into Spanish. And for you strictly Anglophones out there, I wouldn't suggest this, although I do have a version that is in English that somebody got me. It's the same person that bought me this one. Here's the book that I grew up on. It's the Pickthall interpretation/translation. I do not recommend reading this. But okay. Matthew, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We have 4 writers, correct? 2 of them are using the Gospel of Mark as a template, or the Gospel according to Mark as a template, right? Matthew is a very Judaized gospel. The community that used Matthew probably despised Paul, right? And we have 7 authentic Pauline letters, and then you can argue whether the pastorals were from his old age or from someone else trying to mitigate the extremeness of Paul's views, like Paul saying that men and women are equal, slave and free are equal, barbarian and Greek are equal, Gentile and Jew are equal. These are radical ideas. As opposed to, you have in the pastorals, you know, the very family oriented, family structured thing, you know. The Book of James, which I always thought was a forgery. Yeah, I thought basically everything was written by Paul or written by people who were trying to write like Paul, but James seems to be James and Matthew seem to be what many considered Judaizers, right? As well as the Apocalypse of John. And I think the Apocalypse of John was early. I used to believe that 1st John, 2nd John, 3rd John were all written by different people. Now I believe they're written by the same person. I actually believe they're written by the person who wrote John. So we have at least 4 different perspectives: Mark, Luke, Matthew, John, whoever wrote the second part of Acts. Well, I won't include that person, but Paul, who interacted with James and Peter. We have James and Peter as well, but Peter, I don't think I think his followers wrote 1st and 2nd Peter, but I do believe he had a hand in the Gospel of Mark. So that's 5 people, 5 witnesses. Not to mention that both Luke and John claim that they got their sources, that they gathered sources from other eyewitnesses to events that they weren't at. And then we have things that are, you know, not in the Western canon, but we're told to read, like the Didache, 1st Clement, and the writings of Ignatius of Antioch. So, yeah. Bible, Biblos, even though it means book, can mean books, it's a library. And it's 2 different libraries, 2 different codices. Right? And this codice, this is what we think of as the Bible, the Protestant Bible, that here, let me see if I can reach the King James. This is the flag of Argentina behind me. My copy of the King James that I got from the Mormons. See, here's a version of the King James, but here's the first Bible that I ever received. It was from the Mormons sent to my house, and I glued on a picture of the Virgin Mary and scratched out scratched out Latter-day Saints right there, because they're cultists. But basically, this canon, which would be all English canons, all Protestant canons from now on, is from not even 1610. It's later than that, because they had the Apocrypha printed. Martin Luther wanted to take out the Epistle of Straw, as he called it, the Epistle of James, because, you know, the only time works and faith appear together is faith without works cannot save. And that went against this whole entire message. Eastern Orthodox, even though we have the Apocalypse of John in our canon, it is never read in any church services. Because we said, we don't know who's John of Patmos. We know John the Evangelist died in Ephesus. He didn't, when was he on Patmos again? But it was so popular, and some would have rather had the Apocalypse of Peter. That was more popular. But things like Hebrews, we don't know who wrote Hebrews. Things like Hebrews, Jude, James, 2nd, 3rd John, 2nd Peter were hotly contested. They're anti-legomena. They were disputed. They're not homolegomena. But the things that are homolegomena, like the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, and most of the works of Paul, as well as 1st Peter and 1st John, yeah, they all bear witness. It's not the same book. Just because 300 year or 100 year between 150 and 300 years later, possibly even 1,000 if you're counting the new codex that we have, the new what we consider the Bible to be. That doesn't make an impact the fact that these were written between 15 and 35 years after the fact by people who knew this apocalyptic preacher that we remember as Christ, but was called Jesus, son of Joseph, or Jesus, son of Mary. Probably Yusuf bar Maria, because she had a Latin name, not Miriam, an Aramaic or Hebrew name. Or, Yeshua bar Miriam, or Yeshua bar Yusuf. So, yeah, it's not, how is it a circular argument? The Bible's true? Well, not all of it, right? And the Bible's not dictation, it's only inspired, just like Amazing Grace, the song, is inspired by God. Just like Detroit, or Eminem's rap lyrics are inspired by his upbringing and Detroit. So Mike Pills, I don't think you know what you're talking about. I think maybe read and or study the Bible and how it got compiled, and why some books were chosen and other books weren't. It's not that big of a conspiracy. There's early church fathers talking at great length what should be there and what shouldn't be there, especially things like the Moratorian Fragment, or in Adverse Heresies, Irenaeus of Lyon.